Welcome, everyone. Look at all these wonderful faces we're seeing. So much EPEW family. This is awesome. So welcome to our first share time of EPEW 2021. This one is focusing on advocacy. So we do have a small panel here with us. But before we get started, please keep microphones muted unless we call on you. So if you have a question or would like to comment on one of the questions we're posing to the panel, use the raise hand feature that's part of Zoom, and then we'll call on you and have you unmute your mic. That way we're not having like 10 people unmute to try to ask a question at once, just to kind of help with the order of things and not having people speak over each other. That would be awesome. And if you are using social media during this, if you could just make sure to include us with the hashtag EPEW 2021 and EPEW family, that would be awesome. And as always, tech is tech, which means something usually goes wrong. So if for some reason something happens, check your email and we'll let you know whatever our solution is at that time. So for now, if you want, in the chat, you can put in who you are, where you're from, and we'll be using the chat feature quite a bit during this to make sure to include you guys in the conversation. And this will be very much just a conversation. So for our panel today, for our advocacy panel, first one we have is Erika Allen, long time EPEW family, and we're going to have her introduce herself. Go for it, Erika.
I love how you say this, and now there's a big garbage truck that's going past out here that's going to probably be really loud. Hi, everybody. My name is Erika Allen. I teach in Mill Valley in Marin County, and I teach K through 5. I am a lead teacher there. We have 5 elementary schools and about 10 teachers. And I absolutely love my job. And I was, as I committed to doing this for Matt, I was like, I don't know if I can contribute a lot, as I feel that we do have a strong program and I haven't done a lot of advocacy, but I do have to say that things are changing. I think just with the COVID and how that's all going, new superintendent, a lot of movement in the district. So I'm hoping that this can be a big communication and learn from each other. Thanks.
Okay, Kelly, go for it.
Aloha, I'm Kelly Deull. I am in Hawaii. I am currently teaching K-5. I've taught everything from preschool through college. We have also COVID. We have a lot of problems right now. We actually have admin staff coming in, so a new principal and 3 new vice principals. So we shall see how that goes. Matt and I have spent some time together this year struggling through, well, him helping me struggle through virtual. So I'm hoping that I can contribute the best I can and share what I've been doing over the years.
Awesome. So Kelly, is there a way to turn up the volume on your microphone? You're still a little faint. It's a little better than it was before.
Yeah, I have it up as high as it can go, and I seem to only have a problem with Zoom. When we use WebEx, there's not a problem. So
okay, that's fine. Okay, Rhonda, you're up.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Bonney, and I teach in Loma Linda, California. I've been teaching at our academy for 20 years and in different capacities. I've taught junior high, and then the last 15 years I've been teaching at our elementary. Struggle right now is feeling like I am a pawn in whatever blank space they have as far as teachers who are not available, or they're trying to move me in different places, and just feeling like this is, you worked so hard this last year, it went so well, and now we're rolling into hopefully a more consistent, normal year, and now they want to shift me again. And it's with our department that is happening, and somehow I just feel like I didn't do enough. How can I not have done enough to feel like I merit the space that I am in? And so this is my struggle, and how to fight that or support it, most of all.
Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, so the first question we're kind of posing is everyone's kind of in a different position within their districts teaching wherever you're at. So for our panel, what are you able to do? Like, how are you able to advocate for your Phys Ed program? Like, what are the different ways and options that you have where you are to be able to do that? Anyone want to start with that one?
This is Kelly. I'll start. So one of the things that I had to do when I walked into the position, because I switched schools, I transferred schools. So one of the things that I had to do was not only have a conversation with the principal, which wasn't always successful, because the principal that we've had, she needs to process and she needs to look at things and think about things. So I learned very quickly, if I have a conversation with her, I need to immediately follow it up with an email reviewing the points that we discussed and the decisions that we made in the meeting, if anything was made. So I did learn that conversations aren't cemented until there's a paper trail, basically, or an email trail, as you can, virtual trail or whatever. So I did learn how to do that very quickly with her. The other thing I found that was very successful is whenever they came out with some weird thing that they wanted me to do or not do or cut this or that, instead of reacting right away, I actually would write basically like a white paper. So I would do all the research. I would write my statements up, just like a paper you'd write in college, with all the references and footnotes and everything. And then I would submit that. And that seemed to get more action. So just everything, as long as I had all the evidence. And so even last year, whenever they tried to question anything that I was doing on, because it was virtual, right? They all said, we know that you know your research. We know you know your curriculum. We know the standards. We know that everything you're doing is evidence-based. So they're like, okay. And so they kind of backed off. But it took me years of having to write everything down. Like I'm like writing papers just to explain to them why we need to do this or that or not do this, and stuff like that. So that was something that I learned with that administration. I'm not sure what the new administration is going to do, but for sure, as long as you back up whatever conversations you're having, or if you write all that stuff down first and then present it, that seems to be more successful, because they have time to review it. They can go back and look at it, and you have the evidence to back you up, rather than just saying, well, I think this is best, because they don't really necessarily care what you say. They want to know what the world's doing. Where's the background? Where's the references? So that's what I learned to do in the last 5 years.
Nice. Rhonda, what ways do you have to be able to advocate for your program?
At this point, I love what
or that you've tried so far.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I did go through, I remember, was it Matt that had all of the standards, as for emails that were coming out this year, as far as what we were supposed to have. But since I'm at a private school, sometimes they fudge that, and they don't, they base everything on the numbers of our students. So even though I'm at an elementary school that has 570 kids right now, because I'm female, they want me to go to the junior high, because they need someone to cover 3 classes, which means I'm not with my kids. So some of it's just lack of understanding of a flow of a program. So I love what Kelly just said about showing all of these things. And so at this point, I have my principal that I present to, I have our board, kind of like the district, and that's it. So I'm sort of a walking this, trying to make sure that I'm heard, that there is backup for it, and coming to you all for inspiration so I don't get super frustrated in the meantime.
Nice. Erika?
After what Kelly had said, it kind of clicked in my head, because we have a new superintendent. So, having a new superintendent, I made it a point to make an appointment with her and sit down and meet with her, just to educate her on how the elementary program, and even at the middle school, because I was at the middle school for a little bit, and I can't tell you how much she didn't know. So, it's like, oh, they have it 30 days or 30 minutes every day, which is not current right now. But, that was big, I think, because I was like, wow, she really has no idea what we do. So, I think just having that communication with her and the principal, I think the principal is so key at your school. If they're in support of you, it's going to just make your program, I feel like, when they see you out there, it's just going to make it stronger. But that's kind of my main thing is the principal and then going to our parents too. Our parents are big, unfortunately, it was very interesting to see the last 43 days that we went back to school, because the parents weren't allowed on campus. Before, they were allowed to be on campus and they were able to see everything that we were doing. And then it was kind of like, oh, they're not seeing this. So they're really hearing it, from their kids when they're going home. Oh, we did this. So, which was, I thought, very interesting how, that all went with during COVID.
So all of you said principals, right? How have you guys found, if a principal's not listening to you, right? How have any of you guys found a way to get a principal on your side that was not before? Have any of you had to deal with that? Mark, go ahead. You can go ahead and unmute and comment in on here.
Thank you, and thank you, panel. I have had to do that. I've had lots of bosses over the years cycling through. Very few of them have really known what they were doing, and none of them have really been advocates of physical education or know what we do as physical education teachers. And I took a suggestion from a colleague and a friend who transitioned from teaching to admin as an AP. And when this latest new boss came in, my friend said, why don't you basically build a letter that within that letter is a resume. Don't make it look like a bullet point resume, but write a letter about who you are, put in your credentials, put in your accomplishments, your history, your experience, your mission statement of what you do, your teaching philosophy. Build it all into this letter, clean it up, make it concise, and then follow through with that letter about what your program entails, how you teach to the standards, how you make it fun, how you have the kids at the foremost part of your focus, and then send this letter to the boss. And then if you have some kind of an email shotgun thing that goes out to the parents, or a school-wide website or whatever it is, however you can get it out there, shoot that out there to everyone that's connected to the school in any way, so that they know who you are and what you do, and that you are a great educator, on fire for your own program. And that's what I did. And that went a long way for me. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. Erika, go for it.
I was just going to say, I have not, I've been so fortunate to have an amazing principal that was supportive of our program. And so I haven't heard no, from her, but I have to say we have a brand new principal coming in this fall. So it will be interesting because I don't know, is she in support of PE? And of course, I will sit down and, have a conversation with her, but it will be interesting to see, where she comes from and, how I will approach that.
Yeah. So I know for me, when thanks, good grief. So as COVID was starting, Phys Ed at my school was all virtual. And then when we went back to in person, Phys Ed was completely cut. So I did not get to teach PE at all. And so for me, principal sat me down, he's like, you're going to be really mad. I already know this. We'd had discussion about it. It was supposed to be just for the month. And so I put it back onto the students. The students were then coming to me because I was on campus for other stuff saying I really want it. I was like, you need to have your parents call Mr. Francis and tell them that. So the next day he was like, okay, so yeah, thanks. He got bombarded by about 40 parents calling him that afternoon with their kids irate that PE got cut. And he's like, yeah, I know, like, I get it, thanks. And it really does come down to, like they're not, Erika, like you had said, like parents are now just hearing it from their students. So students have this huge impact. Like if if we make it worthwhile for them, it does tend to help quite a bit. So what would you suggest being the first steps for teachers that are looking to advocate for their programs? What could like the beginning steps be? I know, Rhonda, you're just starting to have it. You're kind of in the midst of this right now. Like, what would you recommend be like the first step to take of a teacher who's struggling and is needing to build that advocacy up for themselves?
I think like several of you said, for me, I went straight to Google and just started pulling up how many minutes does PE have to be? How many, kids in a classroom are successful? All of the actual in-print laws of teaching will be helpful and successful for our students and families. Also having people who are actual educators versus aides. I didn't realize that an aide is not allowed to teach PE. And that's oftentimes what they think. Like last year at the beginning of the year, they said, you're going to teach kindergarten. And I was like, okay, swallow. And right before school started, they were able to change and I was able to go back to PE. But the juggling of people to put in positions should not be the way it is. When we have people on campus, give them the reins, let them run, let them do all the great things that we're learning from this conference and from everything we've learned over our years of teaching. And, I feel like we were blessed because we have a hospital right near us. And so a lot of our students' parents work at the hospital. So we started right the first day of school this year on campus with our elementary school, since we were essential and those kids couldn't be home by themselves. And so at first of the year, I was doing Zoom and in person, and that was crazy. And then we switched it up. So I was doing videos. So anything that we can do, like you said, to build our resume is great, but advocating with the facts and with what things are out there that we can add now. And just everything everybody said. I love Mark's thing about writing a letter and Erika's thing about sending it out to the families. And the families are huge advocates. So those are the first places I'm going to start. And then just trying to find a balance between my principal's need to fill a space and then showing that I'm valuable where I am. And then for me, I'm a prayerful person. So letting it go to God and just saying, Lord, maybe there's a person there that needs me. So I'm trying to be at peace with it all, but still fight the battle. So a fine line.
Jessica, too, I was thinking of, this from this year, when we were all on Zoom, a big part of it too is like, that whole, the social emotional learning and the families and the parents, just like, we need this, the part of the moving and the wellness. And I think it could be, I think I kept forgetting when we were teaching on Zoom that you're with your students, but you have those parents on the sidelines. So maybe we're not on campus watching, but they definitely were listening. So I would get so many emails and they're like, oh my God, I'm totally enjoying what you're doing, which was amazing. And I made sure to kind of put those emails aside because I thought if ever I'm in a position where, I'm starting to lose my program, I'm going to be reaching out to those parents. Like, remember, can you help me out here? So it'd be really, I think those parents super beneficial because, I didn't reach out to them. They reached out to me saying, you're doing so amazing. And it's just like, I emailed them back right away. And I just was like, thank you, because I'm exhausted. And I so appreciate that you're recognizing and seeing this. So for sure, I think just the whole, social emotional learning, it's going to help.
Yeah. Kelly.
So when you're talking about first steps, when I took over the program at my current school, I was the 17th teacher in that position. Only one of them was actually qualified. All the rest of them were random people that thought it'd be fun to teach that or easy or whatever. So for me, my first step was actually just doing what I do. I was just making sure I was teaching, standard based instruction, having a curriculum map, all that stuff, just really doing all of that with the kids. So that was my first step so that when everybody came out to watch or they would get feedback from their students or whatever, it was always something about, oh, she really knows her stuff, or wow, you're supposed to teach that in that class. Oh, I didn't know that. So it was a lot more of building actually the curriculum first and implementing that with the students, and then and then of course then I started building relationships with various teachers at the different grade levels. At our school, we had 1,000 kids before COVID. So now we're down to I think they said 896. So we've and I think we're going to lose a few more because of COVID. But that's a lot of kids. So we had 6 or 7 classes per grade level. So I try to I try to create a relationship with all of the teachers, but it is a little challenging. But I definitely try to work with the grade level chairs because each of our grade levels has a chair because there's like 6, 7, or 8, sometimes 10 teachers in level. And then I would try to form relationships with some of the teachers that um, were either very vocal at staff meetings or ones that, I don't want to say this, but the ones that if you're not friends with them and you're enemies with them, then they're going to make your life miserable. So I tried to make friends with them because I knew that if I had them on my side, it would make things a lot easier for me. So, and then I made friends with the head custodian. That's a key person. If you are not friends with your head custodian, you might as well just leave the school because everything revolves around them and the school secretary. But really, I just, I mean, especially for me, I've been an educator, I think, 30 something years. So for me to walk in and they're all looking at me like a new teacher, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I know I am not a new teacher, but to them, I was new to the school and they'd never seen a kinesiologist before. They just had all these random people, so they didn't know. So I really spent my first year, I mean, they were testing me and they were very skeptical, and they were they micromanaged everything. They looked at everything I was doing. So I just had to be on target for 100%. There was no, oh, you know what, the kids are just crazy today, let's just do free play. Nope, none of that ever happened. I had to be on point all the time and had to be ready to explain why I was doing this and that. And so once they could start seeing and I kind of proved myself to them, then it made things easier. So and then the kids, yes, you want the kids to buy into your program. You want them to buy in because of what you're doing and the lessons that they're learning. Um, but what I have found, to start with the little ones, hand stamps, stickers, every single class, and that they love you, even if they were not that great. Hand stamp stickers, and so then you're, basically you're K1-2s. Then they love you. So by the time they get into 3, 4, 5, I still would do hand stamps and stickers with them, but not like every single class, and they had to earn them and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, that was the best thing I ever did. And I actually took that from swimming. So, fly swimming. So, we do hand stamps and stickers for our kids after swim lessons. And so I just brought that into the classroom. I hadn't done that in my classes previously to this school year. And that really worked well to get the kids to buy in. And they'd go back to their teacher. Their teacher would, come and say, wow, my kids really, loved your class today. So it was really more like just, do what you need to do. You're not going to be able to fight admin. They have to see what you're doing is valuable. You can tell them, you can write letters, you can send emails, all the research I would give them, that's going to go in one ear and out the other if what they're seeing isn't what you're saying. And so that just doing all those lessons and being on really made a difference. And so then when I did go to the principal my first year, right before Christmas break or winter break, and I said, well, I want to do cardio drumming in January. When can we get back? And she's like, what? Cardio drumming? But you don't teach music. I said, no, it's not drumming like music. And so she didn't understand what I was talking about. So I went into her office and I'm trying to explain it to her. So she couldn't understand my words. So I actually stood up and I start moving and jumping around and showing her what you do with cardio drumming. She said, okay, okay. It was totally funny. And I'll never forget that because, her eyes were, like, big saucers, right? And so that when she saw that, she said, I'll let you give it a try and see how it goes. And so she would come out sometimes and look at the class that I was teaching because I don't have any flat surface. I'll tell you, I'm in a really bad situation. I have a very small piece of grass, and that's it. No basketball courts, no hard surface, nothing. So I begged her to let me use the flagpole area because that's only flat surface. So she would come out and watch, and the same with the jump roping, same thing. She wanted me to do the jump roping in the grass. I don't know if you ever tried jump roping in the grass, but not so successful. Yeah. So I took video and pictures of what it looked like in the grass, and I showed it to her, like not as a way to say, you need to let me use this flagpole area, but more like kind of almost like I was kind of like joking, like, oh my gosh, look what happened today, kind of a thing. And she's like, you cannot do that. You need to come up to the flagpole and use the flat surface. I'm like, yes. And I know that's probably a little manipulative, but sometimes, right?
But it works. It's still advocating for your program. You weren't demanding anything. You were just showing as it was.
Yes, it really worked well because then she came out and she stopped and watched the jump roping and the cardio drumming. And so we have EAs that come with our SPED inclusion classes. And after the class, the EA came up to me. She's like, I've been here for, I think she's been there like 10, 12 years. She's like, I have not once ever seen the principal stop and watch any class, let alone a kinesiology class. Never. She's like, and never for that long. I mean, she was walking with her computer as she's typing. She's walking to some other meeting and she stopped, closed the computer, not all the way. And she just stood back and she watched for probably 7 minutes. And I mean, I don't care. Come and watch. That's great. And after that, it did help smooth things over. But, it definitely a lot of the showing and not pushing verbally until she saw what I was doing and getting that teacher support. So now our admin that left at the end of last year, they came up with like the worst schedule you've ever seen in your entire life. Like they want me to see the students once a month. I'm like, are you kidding me? And so all of the teachers, like they all reamed the admin and it's like, we can't have her only seeing the class once a month or once every 3 weeks. That's ridiculous. And they're emailing admin now. And I'm like, yes. So, but that took me years of cultivating those relationships, and going into their classrooms to like sometimes, because my classes are back to back and they're really fast. So sometimes I would forget to give stickers. So I go over to the teacher's class at my break and say, I forgot to give your class stickers. They did great today. Like, and just stuff like that, or stopping by and saying, hey, Kavika did great in class today. Like just trying to do little things like that really helped build that relationship. And now they're emailing the new admin saying this schedule of once every 3 or 4 weeks is not okay. So
nice.
You start with your curriculum and your other teachers.
So far we've talked about like make sure principals, teachers, parents, students. Lori in the chat there put in like the parent teacher organization. Absolutely. So what other stakeholders are there that you could have access to that we could advocate to? Like what other stakeholders do you guys have?
We have our board members. So our board members are huge. And I think I said that I told you our district is going through a lot of changes, and with a new superintendent and our board, it's almost been a little toxic. So a lot of our district members are leaving, but we have a couple new board members that came in, and that's one that not just me, but like classroom teachers are reaching out to those certain ones and having these kind of one-on-one meetings with them to, educate them and get a little help from them as far as their programs. So I think that is huge as well, just going out to your board.
Absolutely. Rhonda, do you have any other stakeholders that you use at all?
We're going through a huge flux like Erika too, new superintendents. The board is, I think that's where I feel like if I could get into a board meeting, and I think that's, like the gal before me said, if people don't know, they just vote yes. Well, okay, they just assume that everybody and the teachers and who all, that's what they want. So unless we can be sitting in front of them, presenting in front of them, and speaking exactly the scenario that we're working with, they're just going to say yes. So those tools that we can have, I loved everything that was said today. I've got pages of notes, so per my usual. But we need to be in front of those decision makers, because otherwise they're going to be just voting yes.
Absolutely.
And
Kelly, go for it, Erika.
I was just going to say, I think that's very true that, you get into those meetings because a lot of times they have no idea, right? Yeah. So they have no idea what's going on, on campus, with the whole, just all the, I think everything that was made decisions wise through our, schools and districts. You would talk to a board member and they're like this question will look like, really, that's what's going on? And I go, yeah, it is happening. So yeah, to educate them for sure, Rhonda.
Yeah.
Hey, Jess.
Yes, Michael.
I'd just like to also suggest, when I've done community events like Jump Rope for Heart or pentathlons, I invite my county supervisors and my board members to help officiate those events. And a lot of times, they have a relative or a niece or a nephew in your school, and it makes a great impact, because you open it up to the community, you make them a part of that event. So that's one of the things that that's been successful for me.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Kelly.
Great to see everyone.
Thank you, Michael.
So, IE, we're structured a little bit differently than what most of you all are. Most of you are in a district, right? And you have multiple. Our state is one district. So all the islands, all the schools, unless you're private, fall under the Department of Education. So the board meetings, they did make them obviously virtual since COVID, and that did help. And so we did, send in a lot of oral testimony and written testimony, but getting to a board meeting or getting like my small little situation at a board meeting, even if it reflects across, for other educators too, is pretty hard. So what I've done to help advocate at our school, I'm also at 100%. They call us 100% trauma school. That's the new phrase as of last year. So we have, a very high percentage of low income, non-English speaking students that, not like everybody else doesn't have that, but we're also the biggest elementary school in the state. So that helps. But so we don't have a lot of parent involvement. It's really hard to get parents to come to anything. Out of 1,000 families, before COVID, we had 4 family functions a year, and we would get like 100 parents there out of 1,000 families. So that kind of tells you the lack of involvement. But we do have a community liaison lady, and so the previous teacher, he was in over his head. He was a first year. He was a first year teacher, and he had taught 1 year student teaching at middle school, not elementary, and this program was way too big for him to handle. So the first thing he says is, you need to make friends with her. because she is she is really a very strong voice. So and we actually get along great. We're really actually good friends. We chat all the time, but I did make friends with her and really work with her for her to back my program up. And so she's kind of this lady that knows everyone in the state, and people just talk to her all the time. So if a teacher, would go and say, oh my gosh, Kelly is, so strong and vocal on XYZ, or, I don't like that she's doing whatever. She would come back and say, well, did you ask for this? Did she tell you, did you ask her about what the standards are? So she would come back and answer their questions with questions, or tell them, do you think she knows what she's doing? And it was always like, oh yeah, she does. So that was really helpful to build relationships with some of the stubborn teachers, like ones that had been there for 20 years and didn't want change. But also with any of the parents that she could get involved. And then we also have what's called a resource teacher. So so on our islands, we have two. We have one on the other side of the island and one on my side, because we have, the big volcanoes that split our island in half. So that's why we have two instead of just one. And basically, the old one that we brought out, he had to cover some classes for us. And then the new one came out and covered some classes. And once the new one came out and covered classes, and I gave him all the lesson plans and stuff, so he didn't have to, he just needed to show up and do what I told him to do, basically. Once he saw that, and that opened up the door for us to communicate. And then he started looking at my program and looking at my stuff, and very supportive. So I've been able to get him to advocate for our program on a different level. So he actually took my stuff and gave it to the state level, and they liked it enough where they asked permission to put my website on the state website, and asked if they could use me as a reference and a resource. But I had them come out. So the resource teacher is they're not my boss. They're supposed to kind of be like maybe like a mentor teacher possibly, but not quite. Like, I'm not really sure how to explain it, but anyway, so once he was on my side and was supportive of me, he's been able to advocate for different things where I wouldn't have been able to get that far, so, and then he's gone to the state level and stuff. So really our community liaison and our resource teacher, I guess you guys have district teachers, that might be the same thing. That really made a big difference on supporting the program as well.
For those of you guys that have not been reading the chat, you should be. There are a ton of great ideas in other discussions that's going on in there as well, from other people that have been through it all as well. So make sure that you are also reading the chat, okay? Because it is a short time, and we're getting pretty close to time right now. So now we've talked about resources, or we've talked about the stakeholders who we can advocate to. So now I would like you guys to share what are kind of your top resources that you go to in order to help you advocate. Where was kind of your top points of where you're finding this information, and the tools that you use for you and the resources you use for you to help you advocate. Who wants to take that one first? Erika? You ready?
I was going to say, I haven't been in the midst, Rhonda, getting the advocating going, but I have to just say, I'm thinking the first thing that comes to my mind is Terry Drain and Kayford, and you guys. I mean, all of you, where there's so many people that are, that we can pull all these resources from. And I'm so grateful, because if I do have to, get to it where they are saying no to me, or they're changing so much, I know that I can reach out to so many people here, or, I think with Terry, and all of the people that were on this committee, well, I think it was through Kayford, is that they were trying to make it as easy as possible, having a letter, so we can bring it to the board. And I think that to me is a perk, because it's kind of I don't know what to do. Show me, and so they're trying to make it easy for us to kind of go, these are the steps, and how to go about doing it. So that's kind of my thing.
Yes. Mark.
So two resource people I think of that are really skilled and knowledgeable about advocating for one's program is Wendy Jones, who's in this room right now.
Yes, she's been adding lots in the chat. Read hers.
Yes, and should have
gold
been on the
nuggets.
panel, should have been on the panel. And Lisa Fogg, who is a longtime presenter at EPEW, is a classroom teacher these days, but from day one taught me about what one needs to do to advocate for not only my own program, but our field as a whole, as Terry Drain does, of course, that Erika mentioned. So Wendy Jones, Lisa Fogg, Terry Drain.
Nice. Rhonda?
I would love for somehow that to be a meeting that we could have. Like, let's revisit this, personally. Maybe not everybody's dealing with this, but
you know what? We are going to. We have two more advocacy sessions coming up that I'll remind you guys about after we finish this part. Yes, we're doing more of it.
Good.
This is not ending here.
I would love it if too we could get that letter back. I know it zoomed through things over the school year, but those letters back where you show how to present and how to advocate, that would be great to have something on paper. I'd be really grateful.
We do have all that.
I would love that. Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Kelly, do you have anything to add as to like your top resources for where you get your stuff from?
Well, I try to go to Team America and look for the resources that they have there. I look at strategies because those are published documents, that have professional weight, you can say. You also, look for research papers. I'm really a research person, so I don't want to just say, oh, my friend in California does this. I need to have the resources and the references, and I got to research it, and maybe I researched it a little bit too much, but that's okay. But I do also, I'm in Hawaii. I was from California more than 20 something years ago. So I do know some people in California, but I try to, when I go to the convention, I try to network with people from all different states and, build relationships with them so when we had this VP in training this year, oh my gosh, she was so terrible. Okay, no, I won't go there. And
it's so hard not to sometimes.
So she was questioning me, and pretty much at my school now, nobody questions me about standards because they know that I know them, and they know that I know my benchmarks and all that stuff. So usually I don't get questioned about that stuff anymore. And so she was trying to question me on standards, and that they didn't think that what I was doing was standard based. And of course, I'm, steaming. And so I was able to write another letter to them, and I pulled all kinds of links for Matthew's stuff that he shared with me, his virtual, and like all these different teachers that I know, their websites or different lessons or whatever. And I pulled all these links, and I said, what I'm doing is right in line with all of these other people across the country. This is what we all are doing. This is what is appropriate. And so I think that making connections, you don't have to be friends, just, professional friends with people, not just in your area, not just in your state, but across the country, really makes a difference. Over here, people are a little bit different than the mainland. So I do have to be cautious about how much mainland stuff I bring in, because that's that kind of a not always well recepted, because well, our kids aren't the same as the mainland. I'm like, yeah, they kind of are. Kind of all over the country. We pretty much have the same situation as everybody else outside of living on a rock. But the kids are, we still have non-English speaking. We still, we still have poverty, just like everywhere else. It's not any different. So you have to still be kind of careful about that. But definitely, I bring in examples from different educators I know. Definitely make sure I have all of the references and resources you know, I'll research everything, but Shape has a lot of that stuff. And I know this is terrible, but social media can give you quite a bit of knowledge that you can then go grab the research, you know, to the evidence to back it up. But social media this year has been phenomenal, like just people sharing lessons and all that kind of stuff, which then helped me to show admin what's okay. So that has been great, just being able to tap into everybody, you know, and having private conversations. And you know, so what, like, and that's what I did with Matthew. I kept messaging him, and he's like, why don't we just virtually meet? So we just virtually met, and he really walked me through how he set up his virtual program so that I was able to model mine. I made some changes, but it's very similar to what he did. So that's good too, to make sure you're networking and using other people as resources. But yeah, really just find the stuff. And you know, then there's a lot of websites out there. You just have to be really careful on what's on every website. Like sometimes the website, like you think it's going to be great, and then you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, no. So you just have to be really, you know, conscientious of what you're looking at when you're looking at other websites that are not, like, you know, Shape America or something.
Yeah. So for us, like Capered has a whole advocacy part as well for that, which is great. And so as we're in this advocacy thread, man, I'm having a hard time speaking today. We do have Terry Drain doing a session tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. as well of Build Back Better, which is advocating for the next step on returning for Phys Ed. Wednesday at 9 a.m., we have Stephanie Morris from Shape America, along with a few other people that she's bringing in, all about advocating as well, which is pretty exciting. And I know both of those are going to have resources and whatnot. So if this is something that you are struggling with, want more information on, part of it, in the midst of, whatever it is, because all of us are constantly advocating for a program, whether or not we're aware of it, that there are resources out there, and we're going to help you get those. So you'll be able to have those 2 more sessions going up for that. And again, this is all Pacific times. Okay, Pacific times for us. And then at 3 o'clock today, we do have our Bring Your Own Ice Cream social. So, which is always super exciting and fun. And we have some fun stuff planned during that one as well. Other than that, I want to send a huge thanks to our panel that was able to help us today, and everyone else that participated in the chat. It was such great information being shared out there. So if you have not read the chat yet, please make sure you do. There are wonderful gold nuggets in there that other people have put in that kind of added to the conversation that was happening on the screen. So if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. We can be on for a little bit longer to answer any questions or any last comments that you guys might have. Otherwise, thank you for attending.
Thank you for attending the 48th Annual Elementary Physical Education Workshop. We're glad you were here.
Please follow us on our social media platforms. EPEW can be found on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Please check out our website for links to more great sessions. Just go to epew-cp.weebly.com and click on the virtual EPEW 2021 tab at the top and scroll down.
EPEW 2021 Educators Assemble would not be possible without the support and dedication from the amazing EPEW committee. The committee has been hard at work for months preparing for this workshop. Thank you to Linda McGee, Barbara Groton, Scott Wilson, Stephanie Sandino, Julie Miller, Jessica Monlux, Kayla Ailman, Shelby Lozano, Andrea Chavez, Scott Townsend, and Cindy Chase.
Thank you for attending EPEW, where our motto is, come to learn, leave as family.